Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the 2025 The Champions Chess Tour Chess.com Classic. This is the second leg of the 2025 Champions Chess Tour. The Chess.com Classic is held online. This is an online event by Chess.com where 12 players, this tournament will determine 12 players who will be participating in the Esports World Cup. So this is a very important tournament, and as we can see, there's Magnus Carlsen, Gukesh Damraju, Hikaru Nakamura, Fabiano Caruana, Dean Liren, and many players participating. And the time control is 10 minutes plus 0 second. So with no increment basically, and it's really fast. With no increment, things are just going around really fast and there are a lot of possibilities. This tournament has already started and already it's been going really dramatic. There are a ton of dramatic games. And let's quickly take a look at this tournament, the brief introduction of it. So as I've said, the Chess.com Classic is the second leg of the 2025 Champions Chess Tour and determines 12 players who will be participating in the Esports World Cup. And here we have these players who are the 8 invited players. We have Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura, Nepomniachtchi, Gukesh Damraju, Nurulbek Abdushadarov, Maxim Vachilagrov, Dean Liren, and Wei Yi. These are the 8 invited players, and there will be 4 more from the play-ins and everything. So the schedule of this is from May 18 to May 23. We have the qualifier, play-in, and the playoffs. And as for the playoffs, which is the most attractive part, 8 invited players, these 8 players which I've just mentioned, they will be participating and competing for top prize money and as well as the Champion Chess Tour points, which may grant them a spot at the Esports World Cup. So first of all, the 8 invited players joined the 8 players who made it to the playoffs. Players contest a double elimination bracket. So first of all, there's the Swiss, and then there's the knockout, which is the most exciting part of this whole tournament. Winners bracket matches consist of 4 games, and the losers bracket matches consist of 2 games. Grand final match consists of 4 games, and the grand final reset, if necessary, consists of 2 games as well. And if the match ends in a tie, a bidding Armageddon game with a base time of 10 minutes decides the winner with no increment. So definitely there will be a winner. And here we have the prize fund, which is not that high, but mainly the points. The Champions Chess Tour points are the most important thing here. The prize for first place is $25,000, comparing to some offline when we play in for example face-to-face tournaments. This is an online tournament, but for online tournaments you have this whole prize fund of basically $150,000 is still a lot. So this is basically a very important tournament for all of these players. They want to win it, gain the spot of the Esports World Cup, and also to gain the the Champions Chess Tour points. And at the beginning of the video, as I've said, there are a lot of dramatic games going on. And as we can see, Magnus Carlsen is once again back. And as we know, when Magnus Carlsen appears, there will be something dramatic that will happen, no matter if something dramatic about him or about his games. Definitely something will happen. And today I'm going to show you guys 2 games. This very first game is played by Magnus Carlsen against Hikaru Nakamura, and this is just a very dramatic one. But the second game I think is also as dramatic as the first one. But right now I'm going to start with this very first game. And here we have Hikaru with the white pieces and Magnus with the black pieces. Again, the most important thing is the time control. 10 minutes with no increment, so you have to control your playing speed. Not too fast, not too slow. At least you cannot get flagged, because that will be really disappointing. Alright, let's jump into this game. Hikaru starts with knight f3, we have knight f6, g3, b6, bishop g2, and we have the reti opening, e4, d6, short castle, and basically this opening is just really normal and both sides are kind of blitzing out each move, knight g5. This is already something that is not that common, well actually completely uncommon, because even though Hikaru only spent 2 seconds on this move, but definitely he wants to get out of any familiar lines that black is familiar with. For example, here the main lines are rook e1, d4, and also knight c3. And I think for Magnus, he definitely knows how to reply to all of these moves. So maybe this is Hikaru's strategy and he goes for knight g5, a very dubious option, but also getting Magnus out of his comfort zone. And here Magnus spent about 20 seconds and played the move h6. Hikaru drops back to h3, knight c6, and f4. So far Hikaru is playing really fast. Maybe this is his preparation, or maybe, just maybe he has analyzed this knight g5 line before, and when he is playing, he just suddenly remembers this line and just plays it, and Magnus is now getting a little bit confused. So Magnus still, after thinking for a couple of seconds, played this best move e6. c3 was played, gaining control of the center and having d4 ideas. Bishop g7, so black has the two bishops all fianchettoed. Here we have queen e2, the queen goes to e2 and supports the center, maybe e5 ideas, and also just simply developing. Black goes short castle, g4. So Hikaru is playing extremely aggressive and just pushing all the pawns in the center and on the king side, putting some pressure on black's king. Magnus plays b5, saying that I am going to launch my own attack on the queen side. And here Hikaru keeps on pushing and play the move g5. Now for us, regular players, this might just look very scary for black, because the pawn is right now attacking the knight as well as threatening to take on h6. So basically, black somehow needs to take on g5, but after knight takes g5, then this h file is completely opened and black's king might be getting into some sort of trouble. But for Magnus, he is not worried about it, and instead of taking on g5, he played the move knight h7, simply ignoring white's attack. And here Hikaru takes on h6. This is very reasonable. Bishop takes back, of course, and here the position is slightly better for white, but white needs to find the best idea in order to keep the pressure on black's king. And here the best move is to go knight d2, and the idea is to get this knight to the king side as well. Knight f3, knight g5 ideas, or even knight h4 ideas at some point to develop the pieces. But instead in the game, Hikaru played the move queen g4. This is also reasonable because you do have the idea of pushing f5 in the future, and as well as you're pinning the pawn and the king. This definitely still pressures black, but this is not the most forcing move, because now black can just simply ignore it and play the move b4. Keep the tension going on the queen side as well. Hikaru ignores it and played the move queen g3 back. Here, black plays b takes c3, b takes c3, and bishop a6. So even though we see that both sides aren't really replying to their opponent's attack, you see, white is attacking on the king side, but basically black is not doing anything. And for white, even though black is attacking on the center and as well as on the queen side, but white is not really giving any straightforward reply. So basically they are just into their own attacks and everything. Bishop a6 was played, so putting some pressure on the d3 pawn and limiting this queen's activity. In the game, knight d2 was played, very logical, developing the knight. Queen a5, attacking the pawns. Bishop b2 was played. This is a move that seems really straightforward because your c3 pawn is getting attacked and it's very logical to defend it. But here, for white, it's best actually to go knight c4, Because for black can't really take on c3 because there's bishop b2 first, attacking the queen. The queen has to go back to b4, and here after rook a b1, defending the bishop, threatening knight d6, and also this bishop is now gaining full control of this diagonal. Even though black is up a pawn, but white has way too much compensation for it, and white is better here. So in the game, however, knight c4 wasn't played, and instead bishop b2, which is just simply too passive, because now, well, Magnus missed the best move, which is not queen b5, but queen b6 instead. Because now if you go rook a b1, there's bishop takes d3, and very importantly here, if you take, there's c4 check. This discovered attack, queen cannot go to d4 to block because the knight is controlling that square, and black will be winning white's queen. So queen b6 is the best move because it always has the c4 threat. However, in the game, Magnus instead, after a 2-minute think, played the move queen b5 instead, attacking the bishop as well as the pawn. But now this is not as forcing as queen b6, and here knight c4 was played. So the knight not only defends the bishop, but also blocks this diagonal completely and defends the d3 pawn effectively. In the game, Magnus plays knight a5, trying to trade off this very annoying knight on c4. Hikaru takes it, queen takes b2, c4. And here, e5 was played. But e5 is actually an inaccurate move because it closes up this diagonal and makes it impossible for this queen to retreat back to the king side if necessary. And here the best move for black is actually just to simply develop his rook, or even just coordinate his knight to a better place, like knight f6, knight h5, just to improve the pieces' positions. e5 is a slight mistake by Magnus. Hikaru plays f5, but this is also a very inaccurate reply. It is much better for white to play this move knight c6. Not only threatens the e5 pawn, but also threatens knight e7 to get this knight to this very nice d5 square, and white will be better here. But instead in the game, f5 was played, but this also seems very logical. Black played the move queen d2, sorry, and here f takes g6, even though the queen gets to take all the way down to g6, and it looks very scary. White is up a pawn, but after the move king h8, even though white is up a pawn right now attacking the d6 pawn as well, but as we can see, all of the files are now open, and black also have some deadly threats like rook g8 to attack the queen as well as the bishop, and white can also be in some trouble if playing some bad moves and defending inaccurately. White could lead to its own problems. But in the game, Hikaru played really well, and here he played the move knight b3, retreating the knight back and attacking the queen. Queen goes to e3 check, king goes inside, king h1, rook g8, attacking the queen. Queen goes back to h5, rook takes g2. And right now, both sides has 4 minutes on the clock, and Magnus here, he is having a position that is not really in his favor, even though the eval bar shows that this is a completely equalized position. But I think black is the side who is having more pressure, and because, the king is slightly weaker than white's king, because white's king at least has a pawn in front of it, and black only has 2 minor pieces in front of it, and as well as white's pieces are much better coordinated than black's pieces are. And also note that this a6 bishop is just completely useless there. So that is why white is the side who is definitely playing for a much better future. And Magnus here, he just decides to go for tactics, but unfortunately this tactic doesn't really work. And after king takes g2, rook g8 check, king goes back, simply the tactic doesn't work and white is completely winning. But don't forget, this is a dramatic game and things are not ending yet. Bishop c8 back, so Magnus is retreating his bishop back and going for the much better diagonal for the bishop, attacking the h3 knight. Rook f3, blockading the attack, the queen goes to e2. And here, rook g1, a really nice move by Hikaru. And here, both sides still has 3 minutes left on the clock. Magnus played the move, bishop g4. White is completely winning. And guess what? Hikaru, with the white pieces here, resigned. He still has 3 minutes left on the clock. He is completely winning, but only he must play this only move, which is rook f(g)(3). But I mean, this is a move that is not that hard to spot, because when I'm looking at this position, I just spent like about 30 seconds to realize that there is this move rook f(g)(3), because the main point is that bishop h5 loses to rook g8 mate in 1, but if black doesn't take, then simply just this pin is kind of unbreakable, and also this bishop is hanging. Probably what black can do is to play something like queen f3, but after takes, there's no reason for white not to win. White is up a queen. So it's kind of questionable, like maybe queen f3 and after takes, black can take on the h5 queen, but after takes, white is up immaterial, and there's no chance that white is gonna lose this or draw this. This is just completely winning if you play rook f(g)(3). But with 3 minutes left on the clock, Hikaru just simply resigned, and this is kind of like dramatic. And when I'm looking at the stream, like Hikaru and Magnus, they're just laughing after realizing that rook f(g)(3 is just completely winning for white. So it's kind of like lucky for Magnus, and also kind of unfortunate for Hikaru not to see rook f(g)(3 and just to immediately resign a completely winning position with still 3 minutes left on the clock. So this is actually really unfortunate for Hikaru, but really lucky for Magnus. So this is the first dramatic game that we're going to take a look at today. And let's take a look at this next one. This is the second game. Nepo is with the white pieces, and we have Vladimir Fedoseev with the black pieces. And what I can tell you is that this game is just very normal. We have the Petrov's defense. Just actually, in the opening, it's completely fine. White has a small advantage here after bishop h4 and g6. But after 93 back, c6, c4, white immediately gave back the advantage. Probably it's best for white to go for something like c3 here to fix the pawn structure, to support everything one by one, and then maybe queen c2 ideas to put some pressure towards black's king side. But instead, in the game, c4 was played, and now the position is once again completely equalized, and the game just went on like forever. Both sides didn't really make any huge mistakes or anything. Knight h5, attacking the bishop. Bishop goes to e5. White is probably slightly better at this point because white has bigger space advantage, but Fedoseev basically played extremely well. Bishop e1, f6, defending the position really nice. And even though it seems that Nepo has a ton of attacks like queen h7, it looks really scary for black, but Fedoseev defends really well and made no huge mistakes. And then everything was just completely normal. We finally went into an endgame. Just ignore all of these mistakes, question marks, because like they're all very logical moves, just the computer doesn't really like it. And here b3 was played by Nepo, but actually it is better for him to play for b4, which is more forcing, kind of like forcing black to take on b3, because if you don't take, then the c6 pawn will be in huge trouble. But instead, in the game, b3 was played, and now there's rook d2. Bishop e4, knight e2, Fedoseev playing extremely well, Nepo trying to pressure his opponent, but immediately we transpose into an endgame where white is slightly better once again, but because white's pieces are slightly more active. But by this point, it's completely equalized, even though white is up a pawn. But this is completely draw because it's opposite color bishop, and right now the pawns are equalized once again. And I mean, with no doubt, this is going to be a draw. But the most important thing, once again, the time control. Don't forget, this tournament is 10 minutes with no increment. And look at the clock here. Nepo has 2 minutes left on the clock, close to 2 minutes. And for Fedoseev, only 1 minute left on the clock. And you need to blitz out like all of the moves really fast without really thinking, because or else you might get flagged. King g7, bishop g4, rook d2, bishop d7, takes. White is up a pawn. Oh, sorry. Spoiler alert, I just suddenly clicked it, but I hope you guys didn't really see what happened. Like, yeah, we have the rooks traded off the board, a pair of rooks, that is. This is just completely drawn. As we can see, like, the pawns are again equal, just a couple of checks. Maybe, like, white can create some checkmating ideas because the king is slightly much better than, well, actually much better than black's king. But if black doesn't really, like, miss any tactics, then this is going to be a very easy draw, I guess. See, both sides are just playing really normally. Check. And finally, black starts to go up with the king. Okay, trade the rooks. No. King goes up. King check. And king goes up again. Actually, suddenly we just realized that Fedoseev is up a pawn. But he only has 10 seconds left on the clock. Whereas for Nepo still has 32 seconds. And with no doubt, black is going to get flagged because there's no increment. And still there are a couple of moves away. Well, actually a lot of moves away from the 50 move rule. So black is in huge trouble even though he is up in a pawn. Fedoseev trying his best to pre-move all of the moves. He gets his king up. Nepo keeps on checking and keeping the time advantage. White only has 5 seconds left. Well, black only has 5 seconds left on the clock. King goes to f7. Nepo is trying his best to flag. King e3, bishop e6, king d2. There's just no way that black is going to win here with only 4 seconds, right? King c3, Nepo goes back, king d4, rook goes there, rook goes to g3, threatening checkmate in 1, rook g5, and rook c4 check. King goes to d3, and here Fedoseev only has 1.3 seconds left on the clock, whereas Nepo still has 21 seconds. This is, I think, even more dramatic than the first game. Because Nepo here, well, basically, he only has 2 playable moves here. Because right now, he already got his king into huge trouble. These 2 moves are bishop d5 and rook g4. But of course, rook g4, after the rooks are off the board, I mean, this is going to be a draw immediately, even though, like, I mean, that's definitely something that Nepo doesn't want because he is almost just 1 second before his opponent only has 1 second and he just needs to flag him. So definitely, if he had played something like bishop d5, probably this will happen. But just after something like rook c1, this is game over definitely because white, no matter how fast black plays, after a couple of moves, black will definitely run out of time and get flagged, and Nepo will be winning, right? And that is just really something definitely Nepo is looking forward to. But guess what? He played his move, rook a4. And Fedoseev, with only 1.3 seconds, played this move immediately, rook g5. And with only 1.2 seconds left on the clock, Fedoseev won this game because Nepo just blundered mate and won. So this is also so dramatic. This sometimes happens when you are the side who is having a bad position or like having a position that is definitely not winning for you, but you're about to flag your opponent. Sometimes, especially online chess, these occasions or like these situations happen and you just feel like you can't really control your emotions or something, and then you just blunder a piece or even blunder mate. In this case, blunder mate and won. Even these kind of things happen between grandmaster games. But again, this is online chess and also no increment, so anything can happen. These 2 games are just like thrilling and so funny, just full of drama and everything. So the first game, Hikaru versus Magnus, Hikaru just resigned a win, and in the second game, Nepo just blundered mate and won. He can just flag his opponent. His opponent only has 1 second left on the clock, and then he just did this. This tournament is just so fun and so dramatic. So hope you guys enjoyed these 2 games, these recaps, and thank you for watching these games. Thank you for watching this video, and please subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.